You were a little girl sitting on the kitchen floor with your back against your mother's knees. The sound of the hot comb sliding through your sister's hair was the only sound in the house. The blue gas flame was low. The smell of pressed hair and royal crown grease filled the room like a Sunday hymn. Your mother's free hand rested on top of your head. You thought, the way only a child can think, that you were exactly where you were meant to be. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. The hot comb came out of the drawer on Saturday morning. Always Saturday, never any other day. Your mother set it on the front burner of the gas stove, turned the dial, and the blue flame came up, and the comb went black with heat. While it warmed, she made breakfast. Grits on the back burner, bacon in the cast iron pan, coffee in the percolator. The smell of all of it together is the smell of every Saturday morning of your childhood, and you can still smell it now, sitting in your kitchen 60 years later, if you close your eyes. She pressed your sister first because your sister had the longer hair, and the longer hair took the longest. Your sister sat on a wooden chair in the middle of the kitchen with a towel around her shoulders. You sat on the linoleum floor with your back against the chair leg, watching, waiting your turn. Your mother parted your sister's hair into 4 sections with a black rat tail comb. She unscrewed the lid of the royal crown jar. She took 2 fingertips of the orange grease and warmed it between her palms and worked it into the scalp along the part. The smell of royal crown, the heat from the gas stove, the bacon on the back burner, and Mahalia Jackson on the radio, that was the air you breathed every Saturday of your childhood. The hot comb came off the flame. She tapped it twice on a folded paper towel to test the heat, and the towel browned at the edges. That was how she knew. Some women used a Q-tip with a drop of water. Some used a piece of newspaper. Your mother used a paper towel because that is how her mother did it, and how her mother before her did it, and the test passed from one woman's hand to the next without anyone writing it down. The comb went into your sister's hair at the scalp, and it sizzled. That sound, the soft sizzle of pressed hair and warm grease. There is no other sound like it in the world. Your sister sat completely still. Your mother had taught both of you, the first time you ever sat in that chair, that you do not move while the comb is in your hair. Not even to scratch. Not even if your foot fell asleep. You did not move. And neither one of you ever got burned, not once, because your mother's hands knew exactly where the comb was, and exactly when to lift it, and exactly how long to hold it against the strand. That knowledge lived in her hands. She could not have explained it to you in words. She could only show you, and you only learned it by watching, week after week, year after year, until one day you would be the woman with the comb, and your daughter would be the girl on the floor. When your sister was done, her hair lay against her head like patent leather. It shone. It moved when she turned her neck. It would hold through the church service the next morning, the long Sunday dinner, the school week, and the choir practice on Wednesday night. One press lasted 7 days. That is something the modern industry has never figured out how to sell, because nothing they make can do what a cast iron skillet on a gas stove and a woman who knew her work could do in 20 minutes for 15 cents. Then it was your turn. You climbed up into the chair, and your mother put the towel around your shoulders, and the gas flame came up again, and you closed your eyes and you let her work. The smell of sulfur 8 on your scalp. Sulfur 8 was different from Royal Crown. Sulfur 8 was for nighttime, for growth. Royal Crown was for pressing. Every black household in America had at least 2 tins on the bathroom shelf, and most of them had 4. Royal Crown for the press, Sulfur 8 for the scalp, Dixie Peach for the styling, Blue Magic for the ends. There were Royal Crown families and there were Dixie Peach families, and you knew by smelling a friend's hair exactly what kind of household she came from. Your family was a royal crown family. Your best friend's family was Dixie Peach. Her grandmother had been using Dixie Peach since 1948. She would not switch. The thing nobody wrote down, the thing the magazines never put on a cover, was that this was not just hair. This was the air between a mother and a daughter. This was the only 45 minutes in the week where your mother's hand was on your head and her full attention was on you. She was not making dinner. She was not folding laundry. She was not at work. She was right behind you with her knees on either side of your shoulders and her hands working through the parts, and she was yours. She was yours alone. And you sat on that wooden chair with your eyes closed and the smell of grease and gas and Saturday morning bacon, and you knew in a way that you would not be able to explain to anyone for 50 years that this was love. The press was love. The grease was love. The patience was love. Your grandmother had taught your mother. Your great-grandmother had taught your grandmother. The chain went all the way back to a woman in Mississippi or Alabama or South Carolina who learned it from her own mother, who had learned it before that. Before there was a royal crown, before there was a sulfur 8, when black women in the South greased their daughters' scalps with Crisco from the kitchen, or with butter, or with lard, because the kitchen was where everything came from, and the kitchen never charged admission. Madam C.J. Walker did not invent the hot comb. She redesigned it for black hair in the early 1900s. She built her empire on a tin of hair grower that smelled like sulfur and violets, and she taught her customers that the scalp was the soil and the hair was the harvest. She became the first self-made female millionaire in America, black or white, and she did it because she understood something the white beauty industry did not understand for another 60 years. She understood that black women were already doing the work. She just put it in a tin. Annie Turnbow Malone had been doing the same work before Walker. Walker had worked for Malone. The two of them argued for the rest of their lives about who came first, and the truth is, they both came after 100 years of grandmothers who never wrote anything down. The recipe for hair grower had been in medical journals since the 1800s: petrolatum, sulfur, coconut oil, beeswax. Neither Walker nor Malone invented it. They just had the courage to put it in a jar and write a black woman's name on the lid in a country where no one was supposed to see her name on anything. You did not know any of this when you were 8 years old, lying on the kitchen floor. You knew the smell of the royal crown. You knew the sound of the comb. You knew the shape of your mother's hand when it rested on top of your head, between sections, to tell you she was almost done. That was enough. That was everything. Saturday night was different. Saturday night was the silk scarf. Your mother had 3. A peach one with a small flower print, a deep blue one she had been given on her wedding day, and a faded pink one that had once belonged to her own mother and was now so soft it felt like water in your hands. She wrapped your sister's hair first in the peach scarf. She wrapped yours in the blue. She tied her own pink one over her own pin curls. The 3 of you sat on the bed together in your nightgowns, and she read you a chapter of the Bible and turned out the light, and the press held. The press held because the scarf held. The scarf held because 3 generations of black grandmothers had figured out in the quiet hours of 1,000 Saturday nights that silk did something cotton could not do. Silk did not pull the moisture out of the hair. Silk let the curl breathe. Silk let the press settle. A drugstore now sells silk bonnets for $80. They write articles about the science of friction reduction. They make videos with hairstylists explaining the cuticle. Your grandmother knew all of it without knowing a single word of it. She knew it the way a farmer knows when the rain is coming. Sunday morning, your mother woke you both up at 5:30. The scarf came off in the bathroom. She unwound it slowly so the curls would not catch, and she set it folded on the vanity. Underneath, your hair lay against your head exactly the way she had pressed it 24 hours earlier. She brushed it out with a boar bristle brush her own mother had given her in 1949. The bristles pulled the natural oils from the scalp down through the strands, and the hair caught the morning light coming in the window. She separated each section with a single bobby pin from the tin on the vanity. She tied a satin ribbon at the crown, and you walked to the AME church at 7:45 with your hand in hers, and your sister on the other side, and the three of you smelled like royal crown and ponds and rosewater, and you knew without anybody telling you that you were a column of women walking down a street and that nothing in the world could take that away. Then the 80s came, the relaxers came, the sodium hydroxide came, the salons came with their straightening systems, their no-lie perms, and their $200 treatments. The hot comb went into the back of the drawer. The royal crown got pushed to the corner of the bathroom shelf. Your mother stopped pressing. Your daughter never sat between her grandmother's knees on a kitchen floor. She got her hair relaxed at 12 and never went back. The chain broke, not because anyone burned it, because nobody told the daughters that it was worth carrying. The salons promised easier, and the salons delivered breakage. By the time your daughter was 25, she was paying $80 every 6 weeks for a treatment that left her hair in worse condition than the press your grandmother gave you for 15 cents in 1962. And now they want it back. The natural hair movement, the scalp oils with names you cannot pronounce, the rosemary water going viral on social media as if a girl in 2025 just discovered a thing your mother knew in 1958. The $40 bottles of pomade that contain the same petrolatum and sulfur that Madam C.J. Walker put in a tin in 1907. The $100 silk pillowcases. The $500 Dyson Airstraight that does what a hot comb on a gas stove did for free. They are selling your grandmother back to you, and they are charging 1,000% more. But you remember, you still remember. You remember the sound of the comb on the paper towel. You remember the orange of the royal crown lid. You remember the way your mother's knees framed your shoulders when she sat behind you on a kitchen chair and worked her way through your hair one section at a time. You remember the scarf going on at night, and you remember the brush going through in the morning, and you remember walking to church on a Sunday in 1962 with hair that lay against your head like a promise. You can still buy a hot comb, you can still buy a tin of Royal Crown, you can still find Sulfur 8 on the bottom shelf of a drugstore in a black neighborhood if you know where to look. The pressing comb does not require an internet connection. It does not require a salon appointment. It does not require a credit card. It requires what it has always required: a gas flame, a folded paper towel, steady hands, patience to do something right, and a granddaughter on the kitchen floor who is willing to sit still. There are women in this country tonight, women in their 70s, who still get out the hot comb on a Saturday morning. They press their own hair. They press their daughter's hair when their daughters come home for Christmas. They press their granddaughter's hair when their granddaughters ask. The chain did not break everywhere. The chain held in the kitchens of the women who refused to put the comb in the back of the drawer. And every one of those kitchens is a small revolution. You can put it back together. You can buy the comb. You can buy the grease. You can sit your granddaughter on the floor with her back against your knees, and you can press her hair the way your mother pressed yours, and you can put the scarf on her head the way your grandmother put it on yours. You do not have to remember every step. You do not have to do it perfectly. You only have to start. The kitchen is still there. The gas flame still comes up blue. The grease still smells like Saturday morning. The lesson begins again the moment your hand touches her head. Madam C.J. Walker has been gone for over 100 years. The factory is closed. The original tins sit in a museum. But the work she did, the work her customers did, the work your grandmother did and your mother did. That work is in your hands. It has always been in your hands. You only forgot for a generation. That is forgivable. The chain was not destroyed. It was just set down for a little while. Pick it up. The hot comb is in the drawer. The royal crown is in the bathroom cabinet behind the cleaning supplies. The silk scarf is folded in the bottom of the dresser. Your granddaughter is in the next room and she is waiting. She does not know she is waiting. She is 6 years old and she is watching cartoons and she has no idea that everything she is about to learn for the rest of her life about who she is and where she comes from is going to start on a Saturday morning in your kitchen, with the smell of pressed hair and royal crown grease and the soft sound of a comb against a paper towel. Call her in, sit her on the floor, put your knees on either side of her shoulders, let her smell the grease, let her hear the sizzle, let her feel your hand resting on top of her head between sections. She will not understand any of it for 50 years. And then one day, when she is 65 and she is sitting at her own kitchen table with her own granddaughter on the floor, she will remember. She will remember all of it, and she will press her granddaughter's hair the way you pressed hers, and the chain will still be there, held by women who refuse to forget. Did your mama press your hair on Saturdays? Was it Royal Crown or Dixie Peach in your house? Do you still have your grandmother's hot comb? Tell me what was on her stove. Tell me the song that was playing on the radio. I read every single comment.